Здравейте на всички! Добре дошли на нашия първи Tech Meetup, който се казва Godel Intro, Meetup София. Какво мога да кажа за компанията? Godel е компания с 20 годишна история, която тази година честваме нашия 20 годишен юбилей в световен мащаб, и в България сме от миналата година, 1 февруари, така че вече сме година и половина тук. Така че решихме за това време да запознаем българската IT общност с нас. Казвам се Константин Чорбаджийски, който не ме познава, и съм управляващия директор и Head of Operation за България. Сега нека приветстваме нашия първи лектор, който е Витали Пухалски. Той е започнал като Junior .NET Developer before 17 years, 2005, Витали? Yeah. И като през годините е вземал различни роли в различни фирми, като има доста богат опит и в разработването на стартъп компании. Така че Витали се присъединява към Godel Family през 2010 година и сега изпълнява ролята на Division Manager на .NET екипа в българския офис. Нека посрещнем Витали.
Здравейте! Hi guys, that's the only word actually that I learned so far. Can you hear me well? Should I use microphone or with? Okay, so let's do with microphone. So as Costa mentioned, my name is Vitali Pukhalski, and yeah, truth is that I'm with Godel for quite some time. I used to know them for 10 years, and maybe that's why I can talk a little bit more than others about this company. So for today, what I'm going to be telling you about is who we are, what we do, how we do our things, and yeah, why we actually found this very warm country to be our new home. And yeah, we are here for more than a year now. So thanks a lot for, very well welcomed. And yeah, we believe our future with Bulgaria is really bright. And yeah, we decided it's very right moment to introduce ourselves one more time and to wider audience. Okay. So the agenda is here, and before we proceed, I have a question to ask. Probably that's what I'm like to start with. So, what is your imagination of a proper company? What is your ideal company? How does it look like? Yeah, feel free and raise your hands. What do you think? Any ideas? Yeah. Soft carpet on the floor. Okay, so feel like at home. Feel like home. Awesome. Anyone else? Guys, probably those already working with Godel. You have some ideas? Yeah. Friendly atmosphere. Very good. Anyone else? Our guys, maybe someone from the last row? What is your imagination of a good company? Potential for growth? Okay. Yeah, sure. Passionate company. What does it mean, passion? Okay. Yeah, that all makes sense. Thanks for your answers, guys. So basically, that all makes sense, as I said, and that's what I would be telling you about, actually. But maybe some intro in the very beginning. So Godel Technologies, that's the right name of our company. It's international IT company or software development center, if you like, with its headquarters in Manchester, UK. We work for market of United Kingdom, and basically that's where we find all our customers at the date. And history of company is very long. I would say it's yeah, we celebrated 20 years anniversary this year, and right now we give job for more than 1,800 people. And yeah, we keep growing and we grow very fast. And that's actually one of the reasons why we came to Bulgarian market as well. Okay. And going next, we are right now spread across 8 different countries. So as I said, United Kingdom, that's where our headquarters is, our marketing, our sales department, finance department, and then Poland, Lithuania, Bulgaria, as you probably noticed, and Georgia, United Arab Emirates. We opened a representation office over there, and our development center starts in this location too. And Belarus and Ukraine, which historically used to be our software development centers for ages. Okay, so these 8 countries, and I believe there are going to be more very soon, because we don't really stop, and we want to cover and find talents in many other directions and other countries. So where we are good at, if we talk about business domains that we as company cover and where we find our clients, it's really, really broad list. So I couldn't really fit in all of those areas here, as you probably see. But maybe most attractive ones would be financial sectors, these FinTech companies, travel companies. I, for instance, used to work for travel industry for quite some time in my career life. And then transportation, some public services, medical services, and many, many others. And maybe a good thing to mention and worth to mention is that Godel as a company doesn't really engage with projects related to gambling and gaming. There are just maybe one exclusion, but it was in the past, and yeah, we do not really engage with such clients and such projects. And yeah, maybe if you have more questions about that, we'll let time at the end if you want to know more. And speaking about our clients, right now we cover a portfolio of more than 80 clients. It's growing from time to time. Some clients go away, some new adds to our portfolio, and kind of an endless process for us to find new opportunities. And again, quite important to understand that as a business, we do not really work with small clients. It's not really efficient from us business-wise, but other reason is that middle and middle-sized and big clients, they are more keen to do things properly, if I may put it this way. So, you know, doing right testing, doing right processes, and taking care of personal growth of those working for these clients. That's where big money kind of help to put attention to these matters. And that's one of the reasons why we as a business can really afford for ourselves to work with these big names. And speaking about models that we normally utilize working with our clients, it's probably 3 main. And one of them is dedicated teams. When Godel as a company service entire team for a client, including developers, quality assurance engineers, business analysts, project managers. I'll probably mention a little bit later about that. And so team entirely serviced by us. Another model that tends to be more popular at the moment, we definitely see this trend, is augmentation, when clients already have their teams, but they need to expand very quickly, or they probably lack some certain skills. And we as a company can find specialists that they are looking for. And we add these guys or girls to their teams, and they just work as part of their team. One of the rules that we have, we never put someone alone into this augmented team. So normally it's kind of a 2 or few more people. So you not really feel alone in this environment where you kind of put in. And another thing that we started to see probably somewhere in the past, something called reverse augmentation. It's maybe not that relevant nowadays, but still worth to mention. It's when we had our dedicated teams working with our clients, and then all of a sudden, clients ask if they can add their guys to our team, so they learn from our developers, from our tech leads, and gain knowledge this way about products and projects that we do for them. So basically, these three models, I would say, are my main ways to work with our clients. And also, we put some logos here. Some of them you probably can recognize: Booking.com, Shell Energy. I saw this petrol station just opposite side of the road. So probably you can know these names. All right. So our values. Maybe before I explain these three things, I would again ask you, what else would you expect from company where you work, in addition to those friendly atmosphere, ability to grow, and soft carpet and sleepers? So anything else that you would want to have at your company? Maybe, ideal place. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Why not? Why not? We will discuss that actually a little bit later in my presentation. but good points. Where would we be without these team buildings? Nowhere. Okay. Probably to keep it short. During these 2 decades that we work as a business, we figured out for ourselves 3 main words that would describe our expectations on our employees and our processes and our ways of working. And these 3 words are people, quality, and empowerment. So talking about people, there was a very good point about, atmosphere needs to be people friendly, right? And kind of focusing on human values. So definitely at Godel, and maybe that's one of the reasons why I personally now employed by Godel for the set time in my life. So I keep returning over and over again, just, I was leaving this company to try something different. But the reason is because at Godel, we definitely care about people. And, there are a number of examples that I could provide, helping in hard life situations, one scene, taking about personal growth, second scene, and also, we at Godel never call our guys, our developers, or QM engineers, QA engineers, resources. We always call our people talents. So when you go to our interview, we normally say that we need to interview our talents, our potential talents, but we try to find something very good in everyone. And that's why I would say that being people-oriented is probably one of those things that attracts me after these 10 years that I'm with the company. Another thing, and yeah, because of that, probably we have so many clients, is quality of our services that we deliver. And talking about quality, it's not about just, actual code that we implement. It's about relationships that we try to build with our clients. It's about, quality of personalities that we surface for our clients into their teams, into our dedicated teams. It's about, being best in all aspects pertaining our personal life and our developer's life, okay? And last but not least thing is empowerment, and that's probably one of most favorable things of mine. And what it means for us is that at Godel, we don't really have that vertical hierarchy in our organization. We are more spread horizontally, and it means that everyone, should he or she have some very good idea how to make our company better, make our internal life at company better, there is a possibility to be heard, to propose this idea and implement it. Example here might be this particular event. When I first came to SOFIA, we talked to Costa, we talked to our guys who was already part of our company, and we decided that we need to kind of a little bit better introduce ourselves. So we decided and we did it, right? So today we're gathered here and we are having our speakers whom we'll introduce to you a little bit later. Yeah, so guys will share their histories and yeah, their work experience. So example is definitely that you can do it if you think it brings value. So you really have this empowerment to do things that would help us to, go one step next. And again, speaking about our organization, and I already touched upon that a little bit, saying that we're able to provide teams that capable on doing different type of services. How we do that? We are try to do what we are really best at. And with that said, it means that within our company, we have separation for divisions, right? These centers of competence and expertise, right? So should you do .NET coding, or if you're a JavaScript developer, you'll be assigned to certain division who is doing this type of work. DevOps, I don't know, Python, PHP, maybe data division or quality management. These are our so-called technical divisions where this knowledge is concentrated about certain areas of development. Also, we have three, I call it service divisions, but they are business analysts who also kind of deal as a dedicated team, big one, but still a team. Agile delivery, we used to call our project managers agile delivery because what they normally do, they help to deliver our services, deliver some projects, and we do it in agile manners all the time. And service delivery is quite unique for me. I never met it before in other companies, but they are the guys who help to talk to clients who talk their language and able to solve some complex problems, whether it comes to some negotiations about new prices, new rates, right? Or new challenges that we face, or expansion in the team, or maybe stuff like that. And last but not least, as any other organization, we have administration division, right? And guys doing sales activities, marketing, IT guys who help us, get rid of these administration rights on our laptops, and finance guys who make sure that our salaries are paid right on time. So this is in terms of our company organization. And then maybe I shouldn't have shown you that slide. Question again. Do you think sitting on bench is a good or not? You know what's bench is? Who knows what's the bench? Sitting on bench? Okay, yeah, so we've got a few developers here at least. That's already good. So being without a project, whether it's good thing or not, you're thinking. Who thinks it's good from time to time get to the bench? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, quite some people. Me too. And who is afraid to get to the bench? 1, 2. Okay. So where I'm heading towards with this question is that at Godel, it's kind of a normal process that from time to time you may end up being without this assignment to some certain project. And as I said, my personal thinking is that, and opinion, it's not that bad. You can read through what you kind of collected during these months being working from project and having no time, right? And you can watch some videos, you can explore new areas that probably are not very familiar with. But in addition to that, at company we realize that people want to communicate, people want to bring even more value than they do for projects that they work for. And because of that, we have something called functions, which are basically those side activities that you can do, being a Godeler. And I just ordered these functions in a way how you, as a potential employee or maybe existing employee, would face them if you decided to, make acquaintance with Godel. So talent acquisition is probably very first thing that you would meet. It's about taking part in interviews and helping our human resources managers and talent acquisition managers to conduct this interview. So normally myself, my friends Raman, Vladimir, Dimitrov, for instance, we go for interview. We ask these sometimes easy questions, sometimes stupid questions, sometimes we ask probably tough questions for someone. And yeah, it's about participating in these interviews activities. And then should you, accept our offer, if you liked it and you liked ourselves, then you join us, and very first guys whom you're gonna meet are gonna be our onboarding function. So we don't really let anyone to stay alone with this new environment, with these new people. So always there is someone to help you, to guide you through this process. And this is our onboarding function. And in addition to that, every employee in our company has, so maybe you can think about it as a mentor or just a friend who knows how things work at our company, simply because he or she used to be with the company for a longer period of time. So these talent managers help you decide on project that you may go to. At Godel, we have ability to choose where to go. So it's not just you are forced to join some project and that's it. You don't have choice, you do. And talent managers also help you to go through performance review and negotiate about new salary, maybe salary raise. So these guys kind of are responsible for yourself whilst you are working for our company. And then yeah, we as mentioned, sorry, we expect everyone to evolve over time, to learn new things, because our IT world never stops. New and new frameworks, tools, they come on top, and we need to learn it. And because of that, there is learning and development function where you can participate, you can go to conferences, you can prepare some tech talks, you can do some, I don't know, courses and help, for instance, we call them mastery, but let's put it junior developers to grow into middle developers to grow into seniors, and we know how to prepare lead developers from senior developers. Okay, so we have these courses, and guys from learning and development help to go through this process, and kind of they are your mentors in this process. And then research and development, my favorite scene, because I'm at Godel, head of research and development. What we do, we research new tools, we research new frameworks, we incentivize guys to explore new areas and share this knowledge. And also we do build some proof of concepts that later on we share with our clients as proposals, how to change their businesses and how to stay on top of the edge of this technology stack. And yeah, so in parentheses, it's innovations. That's how we used to call it before, but yeah, now it's research and development. And then pre-sales is also a very important scene. I mentioned that our guys, they have a choice which project to join. However, at the same time, company, our developers has a right to decide whether the company is gonna be engaging with some client or not. And in order to do that, we have this pre-sales function where obviously not everyone, but those experienced guys, guys who knows how to negotiate, how to build certain things, they go and talk to client directly when we have this initial conversations with them. And if it's some legacy stuff, if it's something not very interesting, maybe boring, or maybe we see that client do not really have very clear vision on what they like, right? So in that case, we can say that we don't really want to do this job, okay? So no matter how much it's paid, right? Maybe it's debatable, but still, point here is that developers participate in these pre-sales and sales activities, and they have a right to decide which projects will later on come to our portfolio and which client we're going to be working with. So this is quite interesting scene, I would say. I personally really like to go to these pre-sales calls. Very interesting stuff. And then compliance, over years, we managed to compile quite some knowledge base about best practices, about best approaches to build, I don't know, microservice architectures, some event sourcing, and we collect it all into one place, so everyone, whether they need to learn a little bit about it or maybe learning and development function wants to use it as a fundamentals for their course, they go and use what compliance function has assembled and gets it into one place. And then PR, not everyone wanted to be an IT guy probably from the very beginning of his life, and some still wants to explore new areas and just feel a bit of a journalist, or maybe someone has this background even. So it's about participating in some different activities where we can talk about our company, just like I do right now. So it's also possible, and you can really join it. And that's about these functions. And last but not least, at Godel, we over time really worked out something called work hard, play hard. There were a number of mentions of these team buildings, right? Of these ways to attract people, right? Better, to make them feel better at this working environment. So at Godel, really, we work hard, but at the same time, we play hard, that's for sure. And how we do that? Maybe, these team buildings that you mentioned. And we also have this rule of 2 parties per year granted for all locations, like summer party and New Year party, so these biggest events. And it obviously depends on the location, how exactly it's performed. But yeah, rule is that 2 parties at least over the year, plus these project team buildings, sorry. And as a perks that our company has to offer, similar to other competitors in this market, right now we do flexible hours. So maybe as the industry is quite standard, but comparing to other jobs that you may have, it's not always possible. But yeah, you definitely gonna value that once tried. I can surely say about myself that. Work from 8 to 17 maybe, or I don't know, 9 to 18, not always what you want to do. Sometimes you need to do some your personal stuff without asking the permission. So we mainly focus on work being done and not asking when exactly you do that. So that's our sort of a policy, if you like, and that's how we try to organize our work and what we stick to. And then doing work from home after COVID times, it kind of comes quite naturally. But we were really doing this even before COVID times. And now we have this internal system for desk booking, for instance, where you can decide when you go to the office, where you're going to be seated. And yeah, if you don't want, you work from home. If you do want to see your colleagues, yeah, please book your desk and go for the office and talk to them. That's what we do. And then again, depending on locations, there might be a number of different activities like board games. In Poland, for instance, where I'm based from, we have this billiards table at our office, which I really like to play. So, meeting colleagues at pool game, not that bad, to be honest. And Friday nights usually go very, very quickly, unfortunately. And then, as a rule, we do cover sport compensation, medical insurance, all those things. And last but not least, we started to build our own loyalty program for our employees. And what it means, the more you work for our company, the more holidays you get into your holidays pool, for instance, or you can go for free to some events and do some other things, probably, with less price if it goes about money. So this type of things, maybe some others that I couldn't really recall, but yeah, I tried to do my best and list the more I can. And basically that's it. I hope it got a little bit more clear and more information. And if you were not sure whether to join Godel or not, now you have more incentive to do so. So now, guys, your questions, please. And maybe worth to mention the best question from audience will be priced. We have some special prepared for you. So yeah, please, your questions now. Thank you. Any question? Otherwise, price will stay with me, which also gonna be maybe not a bad thing. Yes, very good question. First one, we have candidate for prize. So Godel was the scientist, right, and mathematician, if I'm not mistaken. And our founder of our company, he was quite passionate about that person. And when it came to finding a name, it was quite obvious for him that company to be named after that scientist. Okay. Any other questions? We need a competitor for that guy from the very last row. No one else? No brave persons anymore? Yes, please. Biggest goal. Okay, okay. Well, actually, our ambition is, to grow endlessly, I would say. And as a business, we want to make more and more money, right? So everyone kind of makes together with us. But I would say it's about providing high quality services, not just within UK, but we also want to expand. But we decided that let's first start with one country. Let's get recognized as a best service delivery software delivery, right? And then we'll grow towards other locations. Yes. Say again. Yes. So I forgot to mention about that, but one of kind of a policies that at least we had before COVID times was that our teams were regularly visiting our customers. So in order to build this trust with the clients, in order to build this partnership, true partnership with them, our developers, our agile delivery coordinators were constantly going over there. And the rule was, if I'm not mistaken, once in a quarter, everyone should have visited the client. Yeah, so we were investing in our clients, investing quite some money into that. And now, to tell you the truth, what I really like is that it's starting returning back again. So what we see is that travel starts again. That's very, very good. Yeah, there was another question, if I'm not mistaken. Customer locations. So as I mentioned in the beginning, our clients right now are only from UK market. It's really big as a market, right? And as we grow, we get less and less competitors. So it kind of makes sense for me. And nationalities, it's very diverse. To be honest, businesses that we are working with, even though their headquarters and for us it's UK clients, their businesses are global ones, like Booking.com, for instance, right? We can't really say it's a UK-based company. It's around the world, but those maybe offices that we are engaging with, first of all, they're still in UK because it's easier to get to, easier to talk same language. But yeah, it's quite international. And for instance, Roma will be talking about one very good case. And I can say that the company that provides this service is also international company. So their market is not just UK, can be for you United States. And another company that comes to mind right now, I know that Vladi was working for that company. They were doing business for Germany, but it was still UK company, but it simply over time spread towards Germany, France, and other European countries. Yep. Yep. States and Canada. Well, I hope so, because I've never been there and wouldn't mind traveling that route, to be honest. But as far as I'm concerned, right now, our ambition is more targeting Europe rather than that location. Because even, hours or time zones wise, we discussed that many times in our kind of a company board level, that time zones wise is a little bit difficult to manage. So not everyone will be happy to work during night time, okay? And to be close to your customer and to build this trust and partnership that I was talking about here, it requires to be constantly on wire, if you like, online with them. And in order to do that, you need to communicate all the time. And yeah, with this 8-12 hours difference, it doesn't really work well. So it probably requires presence in the United States first, right? And then finding clients from there and working in the same fashion as we used to work with our clients in UK, and yeah, this company is based out of UK. Okay. Yeah, sure. You also won a prize. Totally get it. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Costa. Yeah. So with this innovations function that I mentioned in those slides, we built so-called tech radar for our company. It was first our internal product, where we try to cover all competencies that we have in different divisions, also that I mentioned. Now it's about to go live, so maybe in a few months' time we're gonna publish it totally public for all guys, yeah, to visit. But yeah, it was quite big in terms of project. Quite some people participated in that, and gathering information was quite tough. But yeah, thanks for reminding me about that, Costa. I need to push my teams to finish that work before New Year. Okay. Yes, please. Actually, yes. One of the most recent examples probably would be design division. So I know there are a few guys from our company, right, already being part of the division. But funny thing is that as we grow, there are more and more services that we probably want to add to our portfolio of services to be able to, how to say, supplement maybe those existing competencies that we have. And when we form up a team for a client, sometimes there are requests for something that we are not really good at yet. And that's why we have this learning and development. We have this research and development. And as I said, example of this design division was also quite positive, because guys being able, to use Photoshop to draw nice pictures, to do this graphics design, they were always with us. But never it was considered to be a service that we can deliver, because before, in past times, clients normally was coming to us with their ideas already implemented as some graphics. So they were kind of showing us a picture and saying, we want to implement this, right? Instead of that, now we are kind of going to our customers and showing them, we can implement this for you, right? And with help of this division, we definitely can provide this end-to-end service. So it's from, discussing idea with business analysts to this graphic visualization that design division can help with, and then in developing it with help of those technical divisions, .NET, Java, JavaScript, I don't know, Python, whatever, right? And later on to provide some support with our quality, management engineers, and organizing infrastructure with DevOps and stuff like that. So it's about end-to-end that we happy to add something if there is something that we are not yet having. Okay. All right. Maybe that's it. One more question. Super. The best way to my team, or Godel in general, in my team. Well, a very first thing that comes to mind, given that I'm not really leading any projects at the moment. So I used to be a tech lead before, but right now I'm more focused on this research and development. So if you were employee of our company, the best way to start working with myself would be to go to this function, participate in it, and probably do some research. With help of mine, because I normally help guys with discussing ideas and discussing what would be our final results when we finish it. But probably, yeah, research and development would be the way to start communicating more with me. I would, yeah, thanks. Well, it's about quality, not account. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I was just joking. Yes, our Python guys did that work recently. So they were trying to implement a system that would help, transfer money from person to person, like peer-to-peer payments, when you need to charge your electrical vehicle, right? And you kind of go to your friend, you charge from their power outlet, right? And you need to pay them. So they used blockchain for this purpose. Well, it kind of maybe long to talk about it, but idea was about being able to transfer money between friends, and they used this blockchain simply to be able to show this history of money transactions between these friends. So no one complains, I sent you money and I didn't receive. Okay. Uh, well, I don't really want to engage with this question, to tell you the truth, but I can only tell my subjective opinion, if I may, okay? Because maybe it would be the right way to do that. So I personally hate this area and this market. I believe the only who kind of wins in this market is that company that provides this gambling service, but you as a individual, as a customer, always lose. So that's unfair market, if I may put it this way. And I think because of that. Okay, we want everyone to be happy, our employees, ourselves. So if someone gets unhappy because of our services that we provide, we rather not do that. Okay, guys, I I think it can be endless. Yes. Yeah. Good question, actually, and that's one of probably very first things that we normally discuss with guys who come to us with their ideas. So we don't really want, to engage into something very big, and if you have idea, it may become, big business. And what we can help with is most likely some guidance in terms of developing this product as product idea, right? Providing some help with marketing resources. Maybe some certain part of your product can be implemented and hosted on our internal infrastructure and servers. But in exchange, we will ask you not probably to leave your code with us, but at least to share your experience and explain to others what went good, what went bad. And it's about sharing your knowledge and incentivizing others to do something in addition to just doing this work, which may get boring at some point, right? And yeah, maybe we would never pretend for your product to become our product. It's not our business. We are about helping our people to evolve and to yeah, maybe make something good with our help. But again, as I mentioned, in exchange we would ask for something, not your product and your money, but with your speech experience and some presentation probably. Okay, that's the way we structure it. All right. Uh, shall we give out the prize?
Yeah. Who is the question?
Well, honestly, maybe the toughest thing here was to raise hand as a first guy, so I would give it to the very first question, if others don't mind. I think it's a fair. It's a.
Please come.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for attending us. Here's your prize. Really not sure what's inside, but hope you're gonna like it. Okay, yeah, thank you very much. And yeah, giving work back to Konstantin. Thanks again, guys, for listening to my speech. Hope you liked it.
Thank you, Vitali. Сега е време да посрещнем един от нашите първи служители на българския офис. Естествено след мене. Това е Владимир Димитров. Той се присъедини, мисля, че миналата година, април месец, и реално погледнато е вече senior .NET developer при нас и сега ще разкаже за него как избра Godel пред другите компании. Влади, ти си.
Здравейте. Чувате ли ме добре? Супер. Здравейте, значи казвам се Владимир Димитров, Senior .NET Developer съм в Godel. Вече година и половина, нали, съм част от екипът на Godel и реално, нали, съм тук, за да ви споделя накратко малко за моята кариерна история и защо мисля, нали, защо Godel е едно добро място за работа. Накратко за мен, аз лично съм на 27 години, нали, завършил съм университета по библиотекознание и информационни технологии 2017 и най-вече, нали, започвам моята кариерна история през 2016, като започнах да изучавам, нали, Web Development с C# в Телерик Академията. Съответно от този момент до ден днешен продължавам, нали, да изучавам и да се интересувам от .NET, също така работя с него. Реално съм имал, нали, възможността да работя за някои други компании преди да постъпя в Godel, тъй като просто към този момент, нали, имах нужда малко от нова кариерна промяна. Реално как успях да намеря Godel, бих споделил, че Godel успях да намеря в LinkedIn, като тяхната оферта беше доста интригуваща за мен, тъй като към онзи момент, нали, Godel бяха чисто нова компания на българския пазар, нещо ново, което ме заинтригува. Също така успяха да предложат, нали, интересни възможността за работа с интересни проекти с нови технологии. Разбира се, към този момент, нали, имах и оферти от някои други компании, но в крайна сметка избрах Godel, най-вече защото, нали, както казах, офертата им беше най-добра, разбира се, както финансово, нали, така и от възможността за работа с нови проекти. Чисто от към първи впечатления в компанията бих споделил, нали, че беше доста изненадващо за мен лично, че чисто нова компания на българския пазар, нали, вече имаше добре изградени вътрешнофирмени процеси. Като първи работен ден беше доста зает и напрегнат ден. Нали, имах възможността да се запозная с регионалния ни менеджер за България Константин. С него подписахме някои други документи, както и най-вече започнахме онбординг процеса, през който, нали, преминава всеки един нов колега в Godel. Нещо интригуващо, което за мен беше интересно, беше това, че имах възможността да имам среща с менеджерът на .NET дивизиите в Godel, да разговарям лично с него, да ме поздрави за новата позиция. Няколко дена по-късно, нали, имах среща с моя талант менеджер, който също в случая и division менеджер. С него продължихме онбординг процеса в фирмата, но най-вече това, че започнахме да обсъждаме, нали, възможността в кой конкретен проект да започна. Както Vitali спомена, Godel е едно от местата, където имаме така по-рядка възможност да избереме конкретен проект, в който бихме искали да работиме и би ни било, нали, максимално интересно. Няколко седмици по-късно, нали, вече избрах конкретен проект, бях вече част от него. Накратко за него, нали, бих споделил, че проектът беше за, нали, голяма UK компания, която предлага пазар за местни производители на техника отново както от UK, така и от Германия. Реално в проекта бяхме общо 2 екипа, 13 души, като тех стакът на проекта беше AWS с .NET Core, RabbitMQ и като фронтенд имахме Vue.js. Имахме, разбира се, и доста писане на различни типове тестове и реално екипът ни работеше по Scrum, което ни дава възможността да комуникираме лесно с клиента на дневна база. Реално лично научих доста много интригуващи неща лично за мен. По-специфично бих споделил конкретни AWS сервиси, както Vue.js като нова фронтенд технология. Реално също така успях доста да развия и комуникационните си качества, както с клиента, така и с екипа. Разбира се, като всяко нещо в живота и в конкретния проект имахме минимални проблеми. Примери за такива бих споделила моментни неразбирателства в комуникацията с тим лидера и най-вече скорошното сливане на двата ни екипа в един общ. Но реално в всичките тези моменти не бих казал, че съм оставал някога без подкрепа. Godel винаги ме е подкрепила и най-малкото имаме винаги възможността да се обърнем към нашия талант менеджер да потърсиме помощ. Винаги мога да потърсим екипът за помощ. Също така талант менеджерът, както и division менеджерът са хора в Godel, които винаги следят какво се случва с всеки един колега, с всеки един проект. Съответно, ако се стигне до крайен момент, в който има нужда да се намесят, те винаги са там. Съответно, те са хора, които имат като цяло по-рядката възможност понякога да комуникират и директно с клиента, да съберат повече вътрешна информация и съответно да ни помогнат в нашата работа. Реално като цяло през последната година лично успях да дам доста от себе си да кажа в работен план и често казано се радвам, че това беше забелязано от компанията. И като цяло на перформанс ревюта, което имаме годишно веднъж за всеки колега в компанията, все пак успях да получа, да кажем, желаното повишение в както позиция, така и финансово. Чисто от към гледна точка на проекта, към момента стигнахме до заключението с моя талант менеджер, че новопридобитите ми знания по-скоро ще бъдат по-ползотворни в нов проект. Също така за бъдещото развитие, както моето, така и на всеки един колега в Godel, имаме, както вече съм споменал, талант менеджер. Това е човекът отделно, че може да се обърнем към него при проблеми, но също така и човека, към когото може да се обърнем за да обсъдим бъдещото си развитие, да ни даде насоки в какво имаме нужда да се развиеме, както технически, така и от към меки умения. И разбира се, аз като всеки останал имам доста какво да развия, както технически, така и комуникационно, но старая се, работя по темата. Нещо допълнително интересно, което Vitali вече спомена, това са нашите Godel функции. Това са функции и възможността на колегите да участват на едно по-дълбоко ниво в вътрешните процеси на компанията. Разбира се, това нещо е пожелателно и също така, все пак, ако всеки един колега прецени, също така и допълнително заплатено, както емоционално, така и финансово. И в крайна сметка, защо бих ви препоръчал Godel като работно място? най-вече заради това, че Godel наистина е компания, която се опитва да накара хората в нея да бъдат щастливи, да се чувстват на своето място, да работят за интересни проекти, които на тях биха им били интересни, и да почувстват, че биха се развили добре в тези проекти. Също така е голяма интернационална компания, което ни дава една стабилност на работното място, бих казал. Също така огромното портфолио от проекти, което също така, нали, ни дава възможността, тази възможност да избираме този интересен проект за нас. И най-вече, нали, възможността за това да работим с доста опитни колеги от всякакви дивизии, от които винаги имаме, нали, възможността да научиме доста нови и интересни неща. Благодаря ви за отделеното време. Да, моля, ако имате въпроси, ще се опитам да отговоря. Yeah, we have. Както вече споделих, най-вече лично на мен ми харесва това, че има наистина възможност да избирам от различни проекти с по-нови технологии, нали, максимално да избягаме от legacy кода. Това най-вече лично на мен ми харесва. Както казах, има и други плюсове, но това бих изтъкнал най-вече. Ами, често казвам, не особено, но ако имам амбициите, бих предприел, нали, както казах, най-вече бих започнал да го обсъда с талант менеджера, да предприема някакви действия в тази насока. Не знам точно как да отговоря, но по-скоро това, че, както казах, беше нещо ново, нещо различно от вече познатите компании, които се занимават с аутсорс на пазара. Съответно, също така офертата беше добра. Това беше най-вече причината. Да. Значи, реално процесът ни, нали, е в две стъпки. Имаме, нали, опознавателна среща с наши представители, нали, на HR отделни и реално след това стъпката е доста проста. Имаме само едно интервю, което продължава 2 часа и директно, нали, след него преценяваме дали конкретният човек е за нас или не. И да, лично на мен доста ми допада това, че е доста съкратено и няма дълги периоди на преценяване, няколко срещи, което също така, нали, отнема още по-дълги периоди от време. Конкретно специфичен минус не виждам към момента. Разбира се, може би можем винаги да подобряваме комуникацията си между себе си, нали? Но реално, както казах, фирмата вече има доста добре изградени вътрешнофирмени процеси, което улеснява доста работата в компанията. Ами, няма реално много какво да се подобрява, често ти кажа. Ами, изборът на проект, както казах, реално трябва да се намерят, нали, конкретни свободни позиции в различни проекти към съответния момент. Това нещо, нали, се обсъжда с талант менеджера. Той ти дава възможността да избереш, нали, предлага ти конкретните проекти, показва ти, нали, какъв е тек стака, потенциално може да се запознаеш и с конкретни хора от екипа. Съответно, нали, вече самия колега преценява, нали, дали това би му допаднало. И както спомена Витали, нали, имаме възможността, нали, да откажем конкретния проект и да продължим да изчакаме по-дълго, докато се отвори позиция в проект, който би бил по-интересен. Ами, да, конкретно специфичен ден, когато си в един проект, нали, в Godel, конкретният проект, който бях, нали, мога да споделя, реално започваш и, нали, имаме възможността да започнем с flexible time, нали, може да започнеш от 8 до 11 часа, когато както е удобно, нали. Обикновено деня започваше към 10:30, мисля, че там някъде имахме дейли среща, след което, нали, вече спрямо след дейлито, нали, си започваш да работиш по конкретните задачи, които имаш насрочени в конкретния проект. Нали, вече също така, нали, имаш и обедна почивка, можеш, когато си от вкъщи, нали, можеш да прецениш дали да си я ползваш, дали да си освободиш като време, зависи как му е удобно на човек. Да, разбира се, смисъл, както казах, имаме винаги директна комуникация с всичките останали колеги. Ако прецениш, че имаш нужда да комуникираш с някой, просто го търсиш и надявам се, че се отзове. Ами, на мен лично бих споделил 2 месеца. Реално също така това е добър въпрос. Реално от компанията си имаме между 3 седмици до месец си имаш, нали, онбординг в всеки един проект. Но реално след това много зависи от човека, от неговото сеньорити и много зависи нали, дали ще попаднеш в проект за по-малък клиент или в проект за по-голям клиент и зависи как точно ще пасне човека. Ами, най-честия процес е обикновено, понеже в моя случай, нали, попаднах в проект, нали, в който да заместя колега, който излиза от конкретния проект. Съответно, неговата задача за последния месец, нали, беше той да ме въведе в проекта и да ми обясни, нали, архитектурно как работят различните приложения за конкретния клиент. Реално това беше след това, нали, вече разчитах на това, което има като написана документация от екипа и разбира се с доста едно на ръка, нали, личен ресърч по самите проекти, но също така, нали, трябваше да питам тим лидера да кажа първия месец доста трябваше да го занимавам. Нали. Както казах, в конкретния проект бяхме общо, нали, 2 екипа, но в частта, в която бях аз, бяхме общо 8 човека. Разбрахте, но в конкретния проект всички бяхме, нали, full stack девелопери. Съответно, нали, се очаква, че ще може да реагираме във всеки един момент, нали, и на бекенда, и на фронтенда. Да, в смисъл на... Нали, споменах, нали, работим реално по Scrum процеса. Като цяло, нали, си имаме, как да го пиша, се опитваме се, нали, да минаме през всичките Scrum церемонии, да имаме този, как да го пиша, мисля, че имахме първо, нали, рефайменти, на които, нали, се обсъждахме, нали, нещата по конкретните тикети, след което имахме сесия за estimation на тикетите и съответно след това на конкретния планинг, нали, се преценяваше спрямо приоритет и нужди на клиента, нали, кой тикет, кога, за кой спринт ще влезне. В конкретния проект, да кажем, на всеки втори спринт, да кажем, че имаше сега колко точно ще отнеме, нали, да, имахме такива тикети, нали, за ресърчи, но, нали, смисъл, те се взимаха се в предвид, нали, взимаха се в предвид като време, нали, в спринта не беше нещо допълнително, нали, някой колега да се натовари с допълнителна работа. Да, винаги. Зависимост от клиента, често казано. В смисъл, като цяло в конкретния проект винаги се стремяхме, нали, във всеки спринт да взимаме поне един тикет минимален, в който да се опитваме, нали, да правим някакво малко подобрение на кодбейса. Тест coverage като юнит тестинг или...
So, Vladi, who is the best question?
I would say. Да, бих казал, нали, последният колега, който зададе доста интригуващи въпроси. Бих казал,
Заповядайте да си получите подарък.
благодаря.
Така, продължаваме с нашия последен лектор. Това е Раман But-Husaim, който се занимава с програмиране още от ученическите години. From the school, Raman? Something like that?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Той открива своята любов в технологиите и сега ще разкаже за неговия кариерен път като .NET девелопър. Раман, the scene is yours.
Okay. Hello, folks. Do you hear me well? Or not? Okay, awesome. So let's start. Today, I'll tell you a story about the technical transformation of a quite large enterprise in the FinTech area. So let's kick off. The agenda of the meeting is the following. So first, I'm going to introduce myself, a few words, just to understand who am I and what I'm doing at the company. Next, we're going to go through the business and where actually where was the project when Godel joined the company to assist in this particular technical transformation. And afterwards, we're going to go through 3 major steps and milestones in all the project. The first one is product expansion, and from it we're going to move into the area of scaling the UI and entering the micro frontends world. Ultimately, you will be able to ask questions and to know a few facts about what we're going to do next with this particular project, because it's not even nearly the end. So a few words about myself. So as Konstantin mentioned, my name is Raman. I have about 8 years working and releasing systems in production. Before joining Godel, I worked already on a couple of products, and once I entered the company, I started to work on this particular large, at that particular moment in time, it was not that large, but at the moment it's a pretty large engagement. If we take a look at various positions that I went through on this particular project, and I started as a software engineer and moved up to an architect position, and at the moment I'm working as cloud engineer, supporting the infrastructure and helping the teams to move forward with the pipeline itself. At the company, I'm working as part of the project itself and taking part in interview process. I enjoyed a lot, and as well, I'm taking playing some role in the education and development that Vitali mentioned before. So let's move on. Where it's all begin. Business overview, a little bit of information. So the customer itself is one of the key players in the financial advice market in UK. So what it actually means is that for you and me, is that if we have a financial goal, we would like to buy a house, we have a small amount of money and would like to understand how to reach the end goal of buying a mansion for our family. So we would like to understand what to do with this particular money in order to enlarge them. And financial advisors are the key people who could assist with this, in UK and in other countries actually. So we just came to them. They just go through our personal information, gather information about our assets, and afterwards we will move into where to invest the money that we have in order to reach the goal, in 5 years, for example. So this is where the business is about. At the moment, we have a portfolio of products, but when we started it, it was only one. And the company now works across 3 continents, but this particular story actually will describe how we reached from the UK market to 3 continents. Once Godel joined this particular company, there was a single and large monolithic application. The core of this application was a web application And there were like few models that were tightly coupled with the one that like provides a lot of money to the business itself. So the modules are actually like reporting, ETL processing, job processing, and so on and so forth. There was like message broker inside and all other bits. Like the core ideas like inside of this particular project was that it was pretty hard to maintain due to the first the amount of code base. There were like about 2 million of lines of code of like C#, about 1 million of SQL inside of the database, and like some arcane technologies were used inside of it. There were issues with testing. Like we already knew that like it's pretty hard to support, both from the developer point of view, like they were quite hard to regress, and the same from the QA aspect of things. And everyone, including the business and the engineering team, understood that we need to change this and we need to move forward, because like the market itself is quite agile, and like the new competitors started to arise. And we need to change this. So this was our phases here when we first saw this particular project. Like now the question to the audience, like please raise your hand, people who have ever faced like such like large and monolithic applications in your career. So quite a few, yeah. So folks, you understand like pretty well what I'm talking about. So let's move on about the timeline. And just please, this particular like slide in different variations will appear across the entire presentation. But just keep in mind that each of the stages, if you take a look, like at it took quite a while, like about 4 years for the first one, about 4 and 5 for the second one. There was like a lot of research and development, but just keep in mind this, because like the project on each of the stages changed drastically in terms of how it looked like. So let's move on. The first like stage is product expansion. It took about, like as I mentioned before, it took about 4 years. And when we moved from a single application into like a portfolio of applications, and the core driver for this particular change was essentially the business. So the core incentive was that at that particular moment in time when the idea arose, we've occupied already about 30% of the market in financial advice in UK. The closest competitors was like Excel spreadsheets. Yeah, so it's pretty hard to fight with them, like in reality, because Excel could do anything, even cryptography inside of it. So the idea was that okay, we provide services for the B2B, like for financial advisors, but us, like end clients, we do not know like how and when to use this particular, like the growth of our finances. The only way to do this actually either to phone our financial advisors or to go into their office and just describe and ask what happened. And they will just issue a couple of requests internally and to get this information. So this was pretty hard to maintain. And like remember 2014 year, like there were already smartphones and applications started to arise, more and more automation, and we didn't have application for end users. So this was the first gap in the area that should theoretically and in practice it helped to engage more into the business. Another one was that we needed to automate the work of the financial advisors, because like the first part in providing advice to gather a lot of information about yourself. And in reality, that means that you should just grab all your documents and go into the office. A financial advisor sit here, there is a questionnaire with 300 questions, and they just tick, 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 like write down. And yeah. So this was madness, and we would like to improve on this particular front as well. And like remember, like 30% of the market. So this is pretty great. And other companies, they started to ask us to provide an ability to integrate with us, because like financial advisors, they might work with a bunch of applications. Like the market of UK that Vitali already mentioned, it's extremely big, and there are a lot of products inside of them. And essentially, they just came and asked, please allow us to get some data out of your system. Another like key value here is that if like other companies build the integration with us, then we should not do this on ourselves. So this improves the speed. This improves the hook we had in the market and on other companies and decreases our budgets on the development. So this was like a critical thing as well. So essentially, providing something to the like public, like providing an extensibility points, it requires like an additional thing, like a more defined process, because we were no longer the only consumers of the systems that we provide. So the incentive was to provide a way how we could make it more unified and standardized. When such like thing arose across like a bunch of people and the business like request, we needed the top notch like architects, product owners, and business analysts to come into a single room and like live here for a day, and afterwards there will be some great ideas produced. So this is what actually happened. It was called like an architecture forum. And out of this, there were like the key incentives to the business, what to do, like the key directions, and the key things that should be researched. So ultimately, we went like into the following decisions, the key decisions that were made out of this particular discussion with the business. First, like microservice architecture will be used as the foundation of what we're going to build, because like it solved a bunch of questions related to scalability that we had at this particular moment in time, with testability, because we could like produce smaller pieces that we could test in a much more adequate manner. But at the moment we will start to move from like the situation when we have extremely high dependency on the database, like due to the lack of scalability as well. Another thing is that, okay, we are moving into the microservices, but like microservices means that we need a whole bunch of, a whole fleet of infrastructure to support this stuff. And in order to do this properly, at this particular moment in time, like microservices was not that like popular on the market. Like large companies already like implemented and use them in some form, like others were not. And as a result, like there were not so much like great guidance on how to do this. And we understood that there will be like massive infrastructure requirements, and ideally we need to solve that in two like ways. First, we need to grow the expertise on our own and like raise everything inside of our data centers. And another option was to move into the cloud. That like you have to pay for it. It will be for sure, for most of the cases, I would say, it will be the price will be higher, but you will get like a versatility and speed in this particular scenario. So our choice was like AWS. It was the greatest cloud provider at this particular moment in time, and like it was like the natural choice. It gave us everything that we wished to have in order to involve our system. So API first was a core decision due to the fact that we are going to expose accessibility points to the like third parties. They are going to integrate somehow with us, and this integration came into two forms. Like the first form was the API that we are providing to them, and another one was extension points inside of the B2B application. If you need to progress in such direction, when like external customers are the consumers of your API as well, you need to think about API as a core idea. And we needed a unified process, as we were bound, we're going to be bound contractually by the third-party consumers. So we needed a more defined way, and a more defined way in our case, it was like Microsoft SDL. Essentially like some parts of them that we have adopted into our reality that were taken. This is how the high-level architecture after like this particular, the 4 years like ended. So let's take a look at it a little bit. So at the core, instead of like a B2B application, we started to have like an API platform. So API platform, it means that we had about 12 like core microservices responsible for authentication, authorization, like customizations in terms of the style, customer management, client management, portfolio management, finances, configuration, and so on and so forth. so this was the one that was exposed partially to the public. And this is the one that were like the core for like our B2C applications that arise. So remember, like the case that you wish to take a look at the finances that you have. Just like get up early in the morning and take a look at like how much money you get for the previous week or for the previous day, for example. And this particular application was the one that helped to do this. And extension, as I mentioned before, it came in two forms, like API and extension points as part of the application. And now, like this particular DevHub and App Store are essentially the one that you see as part of the GitHub. Like I'm pretty sure that many of you like use this particular platform on a daily basis. And essentially, like you as a developer came and create an application, you are publishing it, and afterwards you come like as a consumer, for example, you need up your as a CI process, you install an extension and it works. So this is how it was implemented, and essentially there was like inspiration that we get from the GitHub when we essentially implemented it, and AWS became an entry point into the entire our infrastructure. From the technological point of view, this is how our system worked and looked like. First, like the API platform itself. As you might notice, like .NET Framework it was used at this particular moment in time. It has changed, like, but we will take a look at this like a few minutes later. But .NET Framework was the core one, and Hibernate was used as an ORM tool for our like entire infrastructure because it was inherited initially from the monolithic application. Because like when we started to like import the microservices out of the existing system, we took like existing parts and try to like to move them and to adopt into a more generic way. Like we succeeded to some extent, but if you worry about this in a minute. And in terms of like authorization, yeah, it was OAuth. We've created like some custom query engine in order to fetch our API like skip top and filtering because OData was a nightmare and we've experimented with it. It was too complex. And like B2C application was pretty classic one created with ASP.NET MVC, and the core idea here is that it did not have any dependency on the database. It relied purely on the API. So this is how it looked like. Moving forward, but a few words about the process. Yeah, so you have the thing like public API. It needs to be stable. You need to notify the customers like half a year before you are going to make any breaking changes as part of it. And even minor changes that might affect them should be notified as well. And the thing is that you already have like about 10 teams working on like the various aspects of your system. API, we were able to scale the development. API, the product. And the thing was is that we needed a way to unify a way how we build features and make a prediction about what will be released and how. And this particular process helped to do this. So essentially, when the team picks up a new idea, as part of the entire backlog, they needed, in the first place, produce a thing like a set of artifacts, an SDL, like Secure Development Lifecycle documents. That contained like a bunch of things inside of it, like non-functional requirements, API designed, researches if they needed, POCs, and of course like security artifacts like threat modeling and security like privacy risk assessments. The thing was is that it was like quite a big amount of information that we needed to create, but the core like values that I think we've reached when we introduced such a process is that people started to think about different aspects of the systems they are creating, like the amount of data that we are going to get into the system, how many requests we are going to get, what data we are going to transfer into the third parties, for example, if we are going to creating an integration, and whether it is possible to decrease this amount in order to get the same benefit. Like first with discussing with third parties themselves and by our business, with our business at the same time. And ultimately, the architects, they just need to go through this collection of artifacts and review them. And there will be like a feedback loop on the process until we get something that might be developed properly and released. However, not everything was so great as part of this particular process. There were we've learned a lot. However, we've learned a lot through going this way, through the pain. And in order to the first thing that we've not implemented in in the best way was we underestimated the initial complexity of the system. So remember the first idea that I sold a couple of minutes ago was to extract bits of the system of the legacy application and put it into the microservices themselves in order to be able to share between the applications themselves and the API. The thing was is that there were so many dependencies and so few of them were end-to-end tested with end-to-end tested that pretty soon we realized that we were not able to complete it fully, and as a result there were a hybrid solution where we extracted a bunch of code and replaced in the initial system, but it was not fully complete. Even though it worked just fine, we understood that there will be the dependencies that will strike us in the face, and we're going to discuss this on the point 4. Adopting microservices was slower because there were not so many guidelines at this particular moment in time in 2014, and as a result we had to think about and implement it on our own. But the thing was is that okay, you find the solution, but you need to educate the entire team, and we had 5 of them at this particular moment in time, and we grow to more. Dedicated to understand what we are facing and how to address certain issues related to consistency that we are going to receive, the transactions that were spread across a bunch of services. So all the stuff required education. Another thing was that we received, due to the fact that for some of the services that we had, we omitted the best practices due to the existing system considerations and started to depend on a couple of databases. And the thing was that we've received we've received the thing that is called as deadlocks. Just folks, just a question from my side: have you ever seen a deadlocks in your real life, in production system on the database level? Not in the code, but on the database. Oh, okay, so awesome. So you will understand. So we faced this particular situation as well. We had to create guidelines. We started to implement some sort of analyzers for this. We started to look more carefully about this particular stuff, but yeah, it was painful initially, especially when clients in production could not register because there was some change that you were not aware of. So this was a nightmare. And SDL adoption was quite long because we need to produce a bunch of documents, and we need to educate again all the team members how to think about this particular process, how to play in this game in trying to be a white security hackers and try to hack your systems that you're trying to implement. So this was fun, but at the same time it was not that straightforward. So this is what we've learned, but more to come. Cloudify. Yeah, so this is the code name, and it took about 4 years. Again, it started initially as part of the product expansion phase because there were an incentive to evaluate new things, especially turning out our local in data center storage into a cloud ones due to the costs in the first place. But yeah. One thing is that there was about 2 years of discovery phase and so on and so forth, but with not so many resourcing working on it. However, when we started to get resources and when the business realized that we need a way, an important way to move to the new markets. So the idea was that at that particular moment in time, we occupied already about 40% of the market. And the idea was that, okay, so we're great at this particular one. We are driving the entire industry forward, and we need to expand. We need to expand to the new markets to gain new customers. And once we realized this, a whole bunch of questions arose. The first one is that you need to distribute your software with the entire infrastructure that we had into like several regions due to the in the first place jurisdictional descriptions requirements is that you could not store like personal identifiable information in for example for Australian users in UK, and especially you could not store like financial information. And in addition to this, there were like security considerations of like of a common sense. Don't put everything into a single basket, all eggs into a single basket. So there was a desire like that either we're going to spin up the entire teams, a bunch of teams, and the entire data centers across several regions with all this fault tolerance and backup to support our SLAs. Or we're going to rely on something else, and this is like the cloud. That's why this is the code name of the entire project, and we needed to reduce costs of Windows. Okay, we had like 40 microservices with and a lot of like Windows licenses. It just cost us a fortune in order to support all the stuff. We needed a way to move away from Windows, to find a way to move away from Windows. And like a backup things is just simplifies deployment and essentially improves the CI/CD process because we needed to deploy all this stuff into different regions. So another day, another forum. So again, we've gathered a bunch of people into a room, and they spent like several days trying to understand like what will be the future direction. Like architects again. Infrastructure engineers, like cloud engineers to be more precise, business, how to move. Okay, so the first thing is that we need to move into the cloud like more heavily, and in order to do this, we need to migrate into the Linux infrastructure. Okay, at that particular moment in time, we've already seen that there is a .NET Core appeared that like kind of solved the issues that arose like behind us, and we will move into like a Linux world. And at the same time, if you wish to get like proper scalability and like controllable deployments and reproducibility and all other abilities as part of your like infrastructure setup, you need to move into the containers. It was like a gold standard, and all orchestration systems actually worked much more gracefully with containers instead of like virtual machines. And another thing is that we have like a lot of files inside of our data centers. Like a lot of files is like several terabytes. It's essentially like millions of files, like from the small ones to the large. And we needed to resolve this issue because how we're going to distribute this and backup. So there was an intention to migrate and move away from the on-prem in this particular moment in time. So this was like the desire, like managed services by themselves, is that if we are going to support the amount of like effort and complexity we will grow inside of our teams, we're going to like more rely on the cloud itself in order to simplify the process. So a few words about .NET Core. Like the biggest advantage, like disadvantage at that particular moment in time was that we had microservice chassis that was used across all of our like microservices implemented in .NET, and it had quite a lot of dependencies, like cross-cutting concerns. And the major blocker was that we were not able to for some of them, we were not able to find a proper replacement. So essentially, all this process that we have this particular slide and how we've resolved like the things when we started like the analysis, the discovery phase. Afterwards, we found the replacements and like the things that actually support upgrade. And afterwards, when we started to design the new chassis and move over and over again across all the services, the thing is that when we've done this particular exercise, we've realized that we have some of the dependencies that are no way could be migrated to .NET Core because like there were no proper replacement. And this particular replacement does not exist even now, like 5 years, even 6 years after it was initially done. So yeah, what we ended up with. This is a high-level architecture at the end of this particular stage. Like it's extremely simplified, but it should give you a notion of what we ended up with. So essentially, as I said before, we had like an issue with like particular Windows services that we were not able to migrate. So essentially, they became a standalone. A small fraction of them became a standalone services, like containerized in Windows. I hope enough. Luckily, we were lucky enough that like when we moved into the release stage, like half a year before the release, Kubernetes released support for Windows containers. Another thing was, and Kubernetes will be the orchestration. We'll talk about a little bit in a minute. The core was the API platform implemented in Linux and containerized in Docker. And like monolithic applications, we were not able to migrate them due to the amount and due to their size and the amount of effort that we are going to burn into the migration. But the most critical one was the proper regression pack that we did not have. So essentially, they remain the same, and the plan but like in future we'll discuss through it, is to split it up into parts and migrate one by one. So all other services are essentially related to like document storage, like eventing, emailing, and so on and so forth, where like we relied on AWS. From the more precise, like technological view of what happened, like from the AWS infrastructure, we have several regions. We started to have several regions. Each region had availability zone. So what this means is that in order to support like a proper failover when like one of availability zones due to the like power outage or due to the like something just cut down the cables that went into the data center of AWS, you need like to switch and to provide like a proper SLA. And in order to do this, there were like several availability zones implemented. At the heart, there was like an entry point is a gateway, and like containers as part of like of each of these availability zones. Regarding the database itself, there was like a separate exercise. I won't go into details because I believe it will require a separate speech on its own. How to turn like your huge database with terabytes of data and like many tens of cores into the cloud. But the idea was that we started to deploy all the stuff into bare metal in AWS, like one of the largest machines that they provide. So that's it. Like I won't go into details about the services themselves, but maybe the most important one, like interesting ones, except the ones that I've already mentioned, was like the presence of Lambda, because our webhook engine was based on the Lambdas and DynamoDB under the hood. So there was like a pain point. Like we've learned a lot one more time. Like personally, I think that this particular project was the toughest in my career, due to the fact that there were like a huge amount of moving parts and a lot of teams that need to be like organized, a lot of new technologies that we needed to distribute our setup across several regions. So one of the our product owners like constantly argued about the thing that is called scope creep, because there were a lot of unpredictable things that appear as part of this process, and the project was delayed slightly, about a year, I believe. So what we learned, the first thing that we went through is that when you're creating like such kind of large system, you need to implement proper documentation. It was somehow overlooked for a bunch of services, and proper testing, of course. Tests are even more important than documentation, from my opinion. It was overlooked, yeah, for now, but we've addressed it as part of this process. We started to grow a proper SRE team, like service reliability engineering stuff that actually helped us to like implement proper runbooks. So in case of any outage, they know what to do. To a certain extent, yeah, when there is like an issue in your application logic, then you will just spin up somewhere from the application team, like straight through the night, and just address, please. But this was the idea, yeah. We started, we skipped the migration of monolithic applications because our straightforward approach, let's take this one and turn it into .NET Core, it simply failed due to the amount of effort and size and regression and so on and so forth. And we needed a better plan that we developed later on. And but we've understood like that coordinating such type of projects, like with like about 25, I believe 25, up from 25 to 30 teams, like were both creating the product and creating the infrastructure. It was extremely tough. There were like challenges and like race conditions and dependencies in this entire process that was yeah, that we resolved, thankful to that everyone understand that all this stuff was extremely challenging. And now, like, let's move to the final part, like micro frontends that we are working at the moment. There was like the project was kicked off in 2020, like in the middle. But as with all the previous ones, there was like a slight research phase with a small group of people that tried to understand how to solve existing issues. About the issue itself, so the core one was that okay, B2B application. We have like about 20 teams working on a single product with a single pipeline. The thing was is that like taking into account the size of this beast, it took about an hour to complete the pipeline, and like several minutes to spin up. And there was only one pipeline and like 20 teams here. So ideally, you could release your software like 20 times a day. But in our case, we were like constrained by the 8 hours. Ideally, somehow like it depends on when people arrive. But usually, we couldn't reach the capacity. But the business required to speed up. And another stuff, like for B2C application, it was much simpler, and it was like the POC created for it, and we started the actual implementation that will be released first. It has like fewer amount of use, only 9, but it was pretty tough as well. And yeah, so this particular project, like we had a lot of like people. We have a huge monolithic applications, and we needed to do something with them. And like a group of people were no longer enough. First of all, we had like a huge, like a lot of teams and a lot of expertise. So like the key people like moved into a room and started to think about what to do with this particular stuff. So microservices was successful on the back end. Let's try to do this on the front end as well. And we've moved on. So essentially, the key decisions that were made as part of this particular discussion was that we are going to move into the SPA world. It has been already proven by our DevHub like extensibility platforms that we had, like Angular worked just fine and the SPA was okay. We are moving into we were going to rely on the backend for front-end pattern. This will like decrease the amount of network traffic that we are going to have. This will simplify the logic and improve the security. Like from the course perspective, at least, and for others. So, yeah, moved on. Another thing that we've decided to do is that we're going, like, if we have SPAs, then let's try to unify all the stuff into a single one with an orchestrator, because you will have like a transition. We'll take a look at this in a minute. You need to transition between pages somehow, like between the micro frontends. And this is where orchestrated like plays. React was like a more or less obvious choice because it was like the key one, and it is at the moment the key one that occupies the entire market. And as we make decision that will last long for several years, then like it should be a proven tech. And Luigi like is a framework of choice to build the orchestrator. Yeah, so Luigi is not like is another one. How it looked like. So I hope you see okay. So there were like two parts became and came to reality. The first one is that we started to have like a micro frontend like container. Is a set of micro frontends inside, and we had like an existing application. Like the micro frontend part, it contained like the orchestrator itself. So it was responsible for menu, for common parts of the application. And each micro frontend started to arose like based on some common like API that we had in terms of like the platform itself, like server-side platform, and there was like a client-side platform related to UI controls, UI, and all the stuff created in React. and Luigi compatibility shim required to allow communication between various microfrontends, to decouple the communication between various microfrontends. So essentially, all this, both of like existing application and the new microfrontend, they relied on our already built like API platform and data platform. This was like Redis and SQL Server. At that moment in time, and AWS, yeah, of course, it was everywhere. Essentially, our Redis was in AWS, Elastic Cache. So what we've learned out of this particular exercise, even though like microfrontends will be released in a week or two, like we are still like polishing everything in order to give it to the world. The thing is that we realized it's much simpler to scale the UI build when you have like a bunch in the same manner we had for microservices when we were able to increase the amount of teams that we had. Like having microservices, microfrontends in place means that you could just pick up a team and assign it to a particular microfrontend, and they will just continue working on it with no overlap, with no regression with other teams. Not completely all, but like decrease it significantly. And it's an awesome way to split an existing monolith into parts. This is what we already started to do. So this is like how we're actually taming the existing system. The pain points essentially was that it was pretty hard to set up locally, especially for the guys, non-tech guys like our UIs. UI developers and designers, they are mostly focused on the things like on the front end part and just telling them, hey, please spin up like this in Jinx and so on and so forth. It just frustrates them a lot. Another part was that initial implementation and design stage was quite challenging for us because we are mostly .NET shop, and now we're entering a brutal JS world that we need to explore and move forward. It was quite hard. But when we like ended up with the initial design, we realized that it's okay. Essentially, you have a micro frontend, you need to share the ideas, and that's fine. And like the first load, it's just an illness of all SPAs. But afterwards, it worked just fine. But the thing was is that the overall architecture of our system, like it's maybe the major drawbacks that we faced, it became like quite complex. So but it's quite complex for people when they enter in the team to understand all the moving parts that we have and how they actually work between each other. But again, we already see the benefit of scaling the UI, and hopefully in future we will just like arrange a talk, just going through in detail how we are doing these micro frontends. Inside, because there are still debates on like the versatility of the approach that we're having at the moment. So yeah, even though this is the beginning, there is one more thing that we're working on at the moment in parallel, and we're supposed to do in future. But first, we're going to like migrate our monolithic applications in .NET Core, in order to move away from Windows entirely and decrease like multi-million like licenses that we have at the moment. We are going we're working on the like reporting system, advanced reporting system, like based on AWS QuickSight. So this is like a data lake, so very interesting project. The goal of us is to decompose our database because it's a crucial point in how we're going to achieve the goal to move away from SQL Server due to the like licensing constraints as well and scalability. So yep, that's it from my side. Thank you. And now like it's time for you to ask questions. Yeah, a question about gifts. You will like the best question will receive the gift. So for sure, like, okay, let's start. First, we're going to move into a managed proposal instead of a bare metal that we have at the moment, and the managed proposal is most likely be Aurora with Postgre like dialect under the hood. So this is the idea. Like AWS, they have quite few interesting things that they provide like in real time and translation between the SQL server into the Aurora, like a shim. And we are going to evaluate this proposal as well. The core fear at the moment is that it won't be performant enough for our use cases, because our database at the moment is extremely overloaded in terms of and we are constantly solving the performance issues with it. So yeah, so this is the idea. I'm not sure where we will end up with, and but this is just hanging in the air. And it's a secret. Yep. At the moment, or like taking through the history of the project, when I first joined it, it was about, I believe, 4 teams were available. So it was about 20 people. Yeah, four teams working across the entire system. Yeah, starting from a product into more ones. But as time moved on, we were about at peak about 200 people, and now we're slightly decreasing into 150 at the moment. So this is quite a huge amount of people working on various aspects of the system. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The interesting thing is that due to the dependencies that we have, we're having a release cycle for the microservices themselves and for the applications. But there is one more thing that changes the old databases that we had. And the thing is that it was released as a core breaking change was released under the database thing, and no one thought about regressing one of the systems related to the registration process. There was no idea that it might broke, essentially, and there were no proper end-to-end implemented at that particular moment in time. Essentially, this issue, it kicked off the implementation of end-to-end for the critical path. And as a result, yeah, so it was merged, and afterwards we started somewhere near the evening, we started to see that there are complaints about the things that we could not register, and we needed to address it, yeah. Yeah. So load testing, initially, where to start? So the initiative was created I believe maybe a year ago, but properly implemented only maybe half a year ago in terms of the load. Previously there was changes, we were monitoring the system in real time, but at the moment we are approaching the load testing, we spin up a separate environment. When we have a test suite created, I do not remember exactly what tool is used there, our KM could say, but I believe it's JMeter, a scripted JMeter, and we spin up the entire infrastructure and started to bombard all of our UI applications and services with the load. It already helped to identify a bunch of issues that we had in terms of the database connections that we had, and this is what helped us to actually solve them. Once we address them, we verified that this is fine, we released, and yeah, so it was amazing in terms of this. Even though it took quite a long time in order to find resources in order to spin up a more production-like environment in reality. But this was painful. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the first one, how we communicate, it's just in terms of like each team, like the initial intention was that we've started to separate slightly between like the responsibilities of the teams. So essentially there were teams related into the API, so they are more or less self-contained. There were teams related to the applications, and when you start to evaluate a new feature build, you understand that you need essentially, like for example, an API extension, and you will come to the API team, discuss with them, and either you will pick up this particular work, or they will do this if it's possible according to their priorities. So this was like the main communication points. What else? Between like the teams that are working on the same product, because like between 10 or 10, this is just there were like key people on the project, several of them that they are watching a bunch of teams, and there are of course the communication meetings between the teams themselves in order to understand what we are doing at the moment, where we are, what decisions we are making, so that there is like a synchronization process between all of them. Even though it's not perfect, like we did not catch up everything in terms of like misdependencies, but it covered like initially like after some issues that we've received, like we've improved this particular process via like the synchronization lead things that we had, and it helped us a lot. Yeah, why is this particular synchronization and where we are. Plus, there were like a set of architects already. They are working and they are actually viewing a whole bunch of scopes that are going on at the moment. And they pretty much well catch up on the things that might overlap. Yeah, and synchronize, and as a result, it will fall into like the team. It will be noticed. In most cases, it is noticed that there is a dependency, and kick off the discussion on how to prioritize. Yeah, of course, there are like product owners and the others who know this as well. Yeah, so in terms of like the second question is about NetCore, yeah? So how much time it took to perform the migration, yeah? Yeah, okay, so initially it was planned like for our like microservice fleet, it took about like initially planned about half a year, but we ended up in a year for this one because yeah, mostly due to the like hidden gems baked into the lack of like technology was not the major blocker here. Like it was resolved initially, and yeah, it was more or less graceful. The more painful part was essentially to regress the systems that were not well properly tested, like covered with tests and documented. This was the core blocker for us in order to perform the migration. Yeah. Any more questions? Mm-hmm. So, mm. It depends essentially on the business and their priorities. Like usually, if like a bug appeared as part of the features that you're deploying, then yeah, it's a top priority to address them, and it was realized just now. But if we have like a small amount of like bugs that already live in the system and the feature development, it depends on the criticality and the affected areas. So essentially, the more clients affected, the more like higher the risk are, and as a result, the more priority it will get, and so that we will come and address it. An exception from this particular phase is security stuff. And even though it might affect a small fracture of your entire system, it might be top priority in order to come and address it, because like the implications of not doing this might be extremely big, like, and loss of reputation and loss of a huge amount of money in this. So like security stuff essentially are addressed like much earlier in our case than the others. Hopefully I answered the question. Yeah. Vitali. In terms of the tools, CI part is covered. Like initially, it was Jenkins that we've used and worked on like a release. But once we started to move into the cloud area, we've started to rely on the GitHub entirely. So GitHub Actions were released, and we started to utilize it inside of our like system. In terms of the CD process, like again, before the cloud, we've relied on the Ansible, mostly to like roll out our deployments like Ansible scripts or recipes. But afterwards, we moved into Harness. So Harness, yeah. So so this is like a tool that we are using at the moment and pretty happy with it. Only for the CD part. So CI part is GitHub Actions, CD part is Harness. It's integrated with the GitHub in terms of like all the steps of the API test, everything that we had at the moment, like into a proper like pipeline. And yeah, this is what we rely on. So in terms of like of materials, you could scan the QR code. It will lead to the GitHub repository with the proper links, that you could take a look, like the things that we've used and worth looking at. Except maybe the last one is just preparing the funny pictures. So thank you. If you wish to contact me, please just email. So you could find it here. In terms of the like best questions, I believe it goes through. No. Before you, because it was awesome. Yeah. Okay, thank you.